record here. All right, we're going to count down. We'll jump right on in.
Yeah, let's
All
do
right.
it.
All right. 3, 2. Kine, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Yeah, I've been really looking forward to learning more about the work you do and specifically your superpower. Can you just tell us, like, go ahead, hop into the phone booth, come out as Super Kine. Tell us, what is the superpower?
Well, I don't really want to share it because then everybody will just come, now I'll be so sought after. But since you asked, I will. My superpower is insight. Like if I talk to you for 1 or even 2 minutes, I usually can tell like what you're good at. I can tell you more about yourself than you even know.
Can you do it? Because we're doing this on a virtual screen right now through
Hmm.
Zoom. What's what is it then? Can you? We've been chatting for 2 or 3 minutes. Give it a
Hmm.
shot.
Okay. So what comes up for me when I talk to you is one, my daughter calls it a day maker. Like you're the type of person, if somebody is down, you're probably going to be able to see that. And then you're going to do what you can do to make their day, even if it's just small. I don't mean like you're going to, give them $1 million or whatever, but something really, just a small gesture to make their day a little bit brighter. That's the first thing that comes up when I see you.
I see. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think I do. If someone's truly having a moment and they're unhappy with what life has given them, I try to make some lemonade if I can. That's great.
Yeah, I have a
Interesting.
second one, but it's a tough one. If I share it, it could embarrass you a little bit.
That's all right. I have this thing
Okay.
called the edit button here, so I can. Just kidding. Go for it.
Oh, that's awesome. So I also see that you are often the smartest person in the room. So you have to make a huge effort to get around people who are smarter than you. And what that ends up sometimes doing is depleting you. Like you end up pretty empty or, drained because of how hard you have to work. When you're in a room where you're the smartest person, you pour out and you can't help it because of what I said first.
Mm.
And then the second part, when you do so much work to get in a room where all the people are, more people are smarter than you, that's so much work because you are so smart that it's like, oh, I finally got here. And wait a minute, are these people smarter than me?
Wow, I gotta take this to my journal. I gotta take some walks in the woods with that. I think that's awesome, Kane. You're
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
And I think honestly the biggest lessons I've learned has been uh, finding ways to learn from any and all people group,
Hmm.
and that every single person has someone to teach us. But you're so right. That is
Yeah.
exactly right. Interesting stuff. Well, so tell us a bit about your background as a hypnotherapist. Tell us what that
Hmm.
means. And you specialize in financial therapy and
Yes.
managing the stress of money. So I just got to know the story. Maybe you've got some, of course, names excluded, of course, but what are some examples or key themes that have come up in the midst of clinical hypnotherapy, specializing around finances and money?
Yeah. So first I'll say this. So I'm a national certified counselor. So sometimes people are like, wait, hypnotherapy. I live in Vegas. And so the first thing that people think about is like that stage hypnotherapist. It is
Mhm.
not that at all. So I want to clear that up. I am a clinician. So I am a clinical hypnotherapist and a national certified counselor. So I've actually worked as a therapist in a hospital, um, working with trauma and all kinds of psychosis. But before that, I was a financial advisor for many years, worked with Morgan Stanley, the Ameriprise, some of the big names. And what I found as a financial advisor was couples would come into my office and start to argue. I felt like I was causing problems in relationships because I'm bringing up subjects that they haven't even talked about themselves. And maybe they have, or they come to me and they're like, don't tell her this happened, right? Or don't tell him I did this. And I'm like, no, you can't put that pressure on me. So a lot of that kind of stuff was happening. And I would see that the couple had two different ideas of prosperity. So this is to answer your actual question. What I see the most is that people are unclear of their idea of prosperity. They are programmed to believe it needs to be a certain way, right? You need to get the house, the dog, the marriage, the kids, all of that, like American dream stuff. But that might not have been prosperous to you. Maybe you didn't want a job. Maybe you wanted to own your own business. And maybe you didn't want children, but everybody else said it was cool, so you did it, right? There was so many things in your life that are just programmed because society told you it was the right thing to do. And you did all of those things, you checked all the boxes, and you still are not fulfilled. And so,
Mm,
what I see the most is people come to me and say, I got the money, but I'm still unfulfilled. I'm still dissatisfied with life. And that's like the biggest problem. And that's what financial therapy comes in, because financial therapy will help you reconcile your emotions around money. It helps you reconcile your programming around money, because we're all programmed. We all have our money story, our money history that made us who we are today. And that money history is running around in our brains. And like Einstein said, we keep doing a same thing, expecting a different result. That's normal. That's humanity. That's not insanity. We all do it. And so that same loop is telling you to keep doing the same thing, and you can't get
yeah.
out of it. And that's how hypnotherapy comes in, because hypnotherapy helps you to stop. It like changes that programming for you. So the things that come together the most when I hear programming is that one American dream story that didn't play out the way you thought it was going to be. And then the second is you have money, or you the other way, you have meaning in your life, but you can't seem to turn it into money. It's like,
Hmm. Yeah.
man, I love my life, but I don't want to be broke.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Or you have a great cause in your heart, a great mission, and yet you don't have any way to put it into practice
Yep.
because you know what? Money sometimes matters when it comes to doing stuff in this world.
Hmm.
Like it or leave it. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so I mean, you've met with people all along the financial spectrum, people who have the money and no meaning, and people who have the meaning but no money.
Hmm.
um, I sometimes meet those same folks. I think we must have the similar conversations. I mean, we go through more tissue boxes here than I
Hmm.
expected when we opened our financial firm here, because tears flow readily when we touch a topic as sensitive as money. I mean,
Hmm.
I was doing some review, and I noticed that Jesus talks more about money than he does about heaven in terms of just number of verses. So this thing
Mm.
called money is a big, powerful, important thing. What's so important about money? Why is that such? Why does it touch a nerve?
Yeah, and I heard you say that before, and I did not pay attention to that, surprisingly, but that is so profound that Jesus said, talks about money more than heaven, like really. And I think that's one, I think that's why Jesus talked about it, because of the second part of your question, and that is, why is money so important? Well, I look at it like this. Society has told us, you got to work hard for the money. Money can't buy happiness. Money can't buy love.
Hmm.
The love of money is the root of all evil. It's like all of these sayings around money being useless, but
Hmm.
it's just not true. So there's this dissonance. We're looking at money, and we've been told it's kind of dirty, the filthy rich, right?
Yeah, right, right.
Dirty
All
money.
rich people are evil, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. I'm
All of
just
that
not good with
programming.
it. I let my spouse take care of it. All those beliefs about money.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so, even though we all really truly want it, because it's assumed that it's a bad thing, we have to find a way to justify wanting money so we don't feel greedy, so we don't feel dirty. And because of that, it's so sensitive, because it triggers something inside of us. Because our grandmother says rich people are greedy. Now, we don't want to defy Granny.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, you don't want to get on her bad side. Let's just say that.
And so, that program is running in your head, but in your heart, you're like, but I know I could do so much good in the world if I just had more money. And
You
so
bet. Yeah.
you have this like, fight going on inside of you. But if I get money, I'll be greedy. But I could do good with this. So how could I be greedy? And you're like, well, clearly it must be true. Society says it. They said it was true. Who are you to go up against it? And in
Mm.
your gut, your soul, you really do want to go up against it, but you sound crazy going up against it.
So, what about you, Kine? Tell me, how does someone go from your pathway is so interesting to me. I don't know your childhood or anything, but what is your story with money? How did you go from Morgan Stanley and Ameriprise to clinical counselor and now clinical hypnotherapist?
Mhm.
Tell me your story and now what have you learned? What are your beliefs about money too? I'm just curious.
So I'm going to start in the middle, then I'll go back, and then we go forward. So in the middle, that financial advisor role, I was just like everybody else, just trying to get money. I was like, where is the
Mhm.
fastest road to $1 million?
If they can fog a mirror, right? Right.
So I started a company and we did like credit repair and um, we did some real estate, we did some insurance. And then I got to the point where I needed a Series 7 and 66 license, but I couldn't do that from my company. So I had to be sponsored by another company, which is how I got to Ameriprise. I learned financial planning at Ameriprise. And then Morgan Stanley opened up a role that had to do with financial planning. And Morgan Stanley, if you know anything about them, were straight broker dealers and they did not talk about financial planning. So even though they knew that this was the future of money, they didn't really have a plan in place. Lucky me, I worked with Ameriprise, so I knew what to do. So I ended up getting in to Morgan Stanley and like just skyrocketing into the company because I knew exactly how to take this new product that they had created that, you know, they didn't know anything about, even though they knew that this was what the industry wanted. So I was doing really well in the company, but every single time I would do a financial plan and somebody didn't execute on it, it would make me really sad. And I'm like, what in the heck is going on? And I realized eventually that there was this money program, there was there what I call money blocks that
Mm.
were in the way of them executing on those beautiful financial plans that I was making.
Sure. Yeah.
So go backwards, rewind. I am what I call a hero. There's a quiz called the Money Mentality Quiz that we do, and it helps you understand your money mentality, meaning how you use money to get love, or how you use money to find meaning, or how you use money to just show up in the world, right? How does money help you show up in the world? And so my money was helping me show up as a hero. And as a hero, I was taking care of so many people. But I was doing this because my mom did this and my grandparents did this. This was taught to me to take care of people with my money because you got to earn it, right? You can't just have money because then you're greedy, like Granny told
Right.
us.
Right. Right.
So heroes tend to give money away, give money away. And I watched my parents do it. I watched my grandparents do it. And so for that reason, they were wealthy enough, but not so much. There was this block that was keeping them from getting to their best and highest wealth because we were going straight from earning the money to gifting the money, and we weren't growing it properly. We weren't protecting it properly. And so for some of us, we weren't enjoying it enough. My grandparents enjoyed their money a lot more than I did. I got really stuck on the gifting and taking care of people. So in 2008 is when the last stock market crash happened. It didn't really affect me until about 2010, and it hit me hard. And I wasn't able to take care of people with my money. So I had to think of other ways. It was like
Mm.
time, there was like energy, there was like expertise, and there's that insight that I was. Well, how about if I just sit down and tell you what I see? Would that be helpful? Since I don't have any money to give you.
That's great.
So, so because of that, because the universe taught me that valuable lesson, this was in the interim. So I started at Ameriprise, remember, and then 2010 I kind of lost. I won't say everything, but I lost a great deal of things. And then in 2012, I started working with Morgan Stanley, and I got this idea because I saw what I had gone through. So in 2012, I worked with Morgan Stanley for 4 years, seeing that same thing happen over and over and over again. And I was like, but remember what you went through in 2010 and how you shifted. You need to share that, but I wasn't licensed to share anything like that. I wasn't certified or educated enough to share any of that. So I ended up going back to school, getting my master's in clinical mental health counseling, working in the hospital. And I knew that the work that I was doing was changing lives because I learned hypnotherapy. And I was lucky enough as a therapist to learn hypnotherapy right after graduating from my master's program. And so from day one, I always had hypnotherapy and I saw lasting change happen. People
Mm,
who have been coming back to the hospital, because usually if you have a diagnosis like schizophrenia, bipolar, schizoaffective, any of those real chronic diagnoses, um, then you end up coming back to the hospital quite often. So many of my patients did not come back. And there were times that they said, I feel different. Like this is the first time in therapy
yeah,
I actually feel different. And
that's
that's when I knew
huge.
I had something.
So you've got a now you've got it right.
Mhm.
So what is it like to do hypnotherapy for financial stress?
Uh,
What is that process like, and what sort of changes do you see in your patients?
Yeah. So the process for me is so rewarding. It is beautiful to watch because you people come into my office and a lot of times I see a lot of heroes like me. That's what I call the money mentality type that I was. So I see a lot of heroes, a lot of enthusiasts, and those are the people who use money to get love by spending it. Right? I'm going to spend money on you or give money. You got a problem, I'll solve it with money. Or let's keep the party going, keep everybody happy. I'll buy the drinks, that kind of person. I see a lot of those people. And what happens when you shift from being a hero or an enthusiast is that you realize that first, you don't have to spend money on people to get them to like you or love you. That's the first thing you start to realize. The second thing is you are valuable, like with or without money, because a hero or an enthusiast really prides themselves after earning good money. Now, enthusiast is one of those people who gets um, windfalls of money, like they may just get $500,000 all at once. Now it's going to go pretty quickly because they spend it on people too fast.
Right.
But they're the kind of person that windfall of money comes to. A hero, on the other hand, has like a good income. They make one or they make $100,000 or $200,000 a year. They usually do have a good income. Or you can look at the hero or enthusiast. It's like that. The athletes, the athletes who get that lump sum of money and then they don't know that they have to pay taxes. They don't know that you cannot buy 10 $10 million houses.
Yeah, I heard somewhere that 7 out of 10 lottery winners are broke and file bankruptcy within 5 years.
Yep.
7 out of 10.
Yeah.
So you're describing beliefs. You're
Yes.
describing what's going on underneath. Are there other personalities in your quiz? Are
Mhm.
there other personalities you found besides
Yeah.
the
So
say?
there's
So there's the hero and there's the
mhm.
enthusiast. Tell me more.
So they're the two that everybody kind of knows, and that's the spender and the saver. And they do that. They spend money. Usually, the spender is spending money on themselves. The saver is usually getting love by saying, "Look, we're going to be okay in the future. That's how much I love you. I'm taking care of our future." The blamer is usually not listening to this podcast, but we'll talk about them anyway. The blamer is like somebody else's. It's somebody else's fault. It's not mine. I don't know, and it's going to be somebody else. The reason why I've become wealthy, it's not going to be me. Somebody's going to give me something. That's the blamer. And then the artist is they have like this love hate relationship with money. They want money. They're the type of person to say, "Oh, we'll talk about that later when it comes to the money." And then they give you this big old bill and they're like, "Oh, the bill is $10,000." And then you're like, "What?" And they're like, "Okay, well, give me 1,000." They don't want to talk about it. They're like, "Well, what would you be
Mm.
comfortable paying?" That's the artist. And then the final one is the president. Now, our company is called Presidential Lifestyle, so that's why we named it the president. And the president has all the positives, all the like strengths of money, but none of the challenges of the other money mentalities. And they have perfect harmony with money. They spend it correctly. They earn, grow, protect, gift, and enjoy their money with harmony.
Say that again. Earn.
Earn, grow, protect, gift, and enjoy their money with harmony.
That seems like there's a kind of a uh, Venn diagram almost. I'm imagining the president's right in the center, being able to enjoy, give,
Hmm.
grow, earn, protect.
Yeah.
So how do you get there? How do you help folks get there in your work?
So the first question that I talked about, you need to know your idea of prosperity. So you remember this question. What is your idea of prosperity? That's the question we ask every guest on our podcast, every patient I see in my office. What is your idea of prosperity? So you have to know that first. And once you know that, so mine, I use three words to describe my idea of prosperity: generosity, autonomy, and creativity. Like
Mm,
if I can't be creative, I'm stunted. I don't feel fulfilled. If I can't be generous, I don't feel fulfilled. And if I don't have some autonomy over my life, I don't feel fulfilled. And so we have to get really clear on what your idea of prosperity is. And the second question we ask is how you want to show up in the world. And what that means is, how do you want to be described when you leave the room? So I want people to say, oh, that girl is tenacious. Like tenacity is one of my core values. Nothing is happening without me getting in front of it. Like I am all over it. And then the one we already talked about, my superpower, is insight. I want people to say, she's insightful. She brought something that I hadn't even thought about before. So knowing that about myself, then everything else I do needs to bring me back to that. Forget, and when I say forget, I really am using a stronger word. Like, really, you have to get to the point where you can forget what society says.
mhm.
Like, it's not important anymore. Who cares what society says? But I have to take you to a point where you can say, just brush it. So what? So what? That's what society said.
That's
I'm not
great.
I'm not doing that anymore. And so by asking you those questions first, I understand where you want to be. And then once we decide where you want to be, I find out where you are right now. And this is similar to the financial planning process, right? Where you want to be, where you are right now, and how do we bridge the gap between those two? The hypnotherapy helps us do that because we're taking away those obstacles that were in the way of getting to where you want to be. That's what the hypnotherapy does. And the way that the hypnotherapy does that is because it's going to go back to that programming. Now, what you don't know, because I didn't mention this in my life story, was that my parents lost their job in the same year. They both got laid off in the same year. So all that generosity went away. They couldn't do it anymore. They didn't have those two six-figure incomes they used to have, and they couldn't even be generous to their children anymore.
Mhm.
They started saying no to us, and then the same thing that happened to them happened to me around the same age. So we had to get rid of that programming that I had to do something to receive love, and then when my money was ran out, I didn't get love, so I had to like just sit back and not know what to do, kind of get stuck in my woe is me kind of thing. Well, for other people, there's another story. That's my story. That's passed down from generation to generation, that you get money, you lose it. That was my story. My grandfather
Mm,
had a similar story.
mm, mm.
So it was passed down. And so we had to get rid of that programming. And then we have to get rid of those triggers. So you remember how I said earlier, you're the kind of person, you're a day maker. Like my daughter calls you a day maker, the type of person you are. Well, I was a day maker too, but I would do it with money. But I would be triggered to do that. It's like, oh, got a problem, Mark? What does it cost? Let's figure it out. How much do you have? Okay, well, you probably just need about 200 more. You got 200. There's your problem solved.
Mm, mhm.
Instead of how I think it's a Bible quote that says, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man a fish, and he eats for life, or something
There
like
you
that.
go. Right. Yeah, yeah. Help
Yeah.
and empower that other person. You know.
Hmm.
So, let me ask this then. Like, it seems like this is some incredible stuff. I love it. I love the idea of defining prosperity. I love the idea of how do you want to be described when you leave the room. I think that's a great, it's another way of saying, what do you want on your tombstone, so to speak.
Hmm.
That's the ultimate leaving of the room, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Exactly.
so and I love the idea that we can change our story. I heard somewhere that we apparently, brain scientists say that we have about 60,000 separate thoughts every single day,
Hmm.
but 99% of those thoughts are the exact same thoughts we had yesterday and the day
Yep.
before. But how do you change the script? One of the tools in the toolbox I'm hearing is hypnotherapy. And
Hmm.
how do you help folks do that? I mean, to go from one story to the next, it seems like it's got to take a lot of courage, but it starts with the beliefs, changing those beliefs.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And um, I like to say I work with a lot of men, and men they don't like therapy as much as women do, because women like the fact of therapy. They get to talk and tell somebody their story over and over and over again, and men don't really like that part of therapy. Luckily, in hypnotherapy, you don't have to have as much courage. You don't have to have as even as much time, because we're going to bypass a lot of that talk, and you don't even have to have the insight, like that insight that I said I can see into you. You don't even have to have that inside yourself. All you have to have is the willingness to say, okay, let's do it. Once you agree that it's okay for you to be okay, even though the stuff that happened to you was not okay. It wasn't okay that society programmed us to believe what we believe. It wasn't okay that my grandparents lost money, my mom and dad lost their jobs. None of that was okay. It wasn't okay that my business had to close in 2008, 2009. None of that was okay. But I had to be okay with being okay, even though that wasn't. So once I
Mm.
get you to say yes to that, then you have two options. So change takes time and repetition, or a catastrophic event. The brain learns slow and the brain learns fast. An example of the brain learning fast is like food poisoning. If you've ever gotten food poisoning, or you ate something and you just got sick afterwards, you absolutely never want that thing again. You're just like, no,
Yeah, you got
absolutely.
the aversion to it. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, not even a
Yeah,
question.
exactly. And that's it, the smell of it is like, So that is the brain learning fast, a catastrophic event.
Catastrophic event. And then the other you said was takes time and
Time and
repetition.
repetition, right? Time and repetition. So that's the way you learned your ABCs: ABC, ABCDE, ABCDEFG. Eventually, mommy, I know my ABCs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you can choose. You can do this without a hypnotherapist. Just time and repetition. You now know the story. You now know how you want to show up in the world. You just keep saying it over and over and over again. Okay, this is what I want. This is what I want. This is where I'm going. This is my path. My path. Over time, you'll get there. Or let hypnotherapy be that catastrophic event for you. And what hypnotherapy does, we gently go into your subconscious brain and we rewrite the story there. So you can tell me, you don't even have to relive the story. You can just review it. You're like, I remember I was 5, and this bully took my money, blah blah blah, whatever the story is, right? And I said, well, what would you have liked to happen? And then the person says, well, I would have liked Tommy to say, um, I know you're going to buy ice cream today because you always buy ice cream with your money. Can we share? Because I would have given Tommy some of my ice cream. I said, okay, let's do that. So we go back into your subconscious brain. We tell the story, except this time, instead of Tommy beating you up and taking your money and going to buy ice cream himself for himself and then licking it in front of you, now, because that was devastating for you, it was traumatic. Now you rewrite the story, and Tommy says, can we share? I know you're going to go buy ice cream. Do you have enough for me too? And you say, you know what? Instead of buying a double scoop, I'll buy 2 singles and you can have one. And then you tell the story about you and Tommy walking down the street, licking your ice creams together. And you'll be surprised, because it's stories just like that, those little stories from 5 years old, from 6 years old, that have made a lasting impression on us and have created our money story.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I see now where the presidential perspective on money comes to play here. You're guiding people, but they're really coming up with their own conclusions. You can't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily go back and change history, but you can rewrite the story and you can reinterpret it. You can
Mm-hmm.
give yourself a new interpretation too,
Exactly.
and your memory can even be altered to a point where you have a new ending to your story. I always say you can't necessarily rewrite the beginning of the book, but you can always start from here to create a brand new ending. I
Yeah.
love that, and so you're helping people, you're guiding people through multiple tools, including hypnotherapy. I love it, and
Mm-hmm.
helping people toward the president
Yes.
personality, and so full of generosity, autonomy, creativity. I mean, I hear echoes of all the other personalities in that, in earning, growing, protecting, gifting, and enjoying. So for
Mhm.
our audience who may not be able to access a hypnotherapist, one, I want to make sure they know how to get a hold of you. But
Mhm.
two, how do they do this right now? What are some takeaways they could do if they're not driving the car? Don't try to like, hypnotize yourself while driving down the highway. It's already hypnotizing enough driving down that highway, I bet.
Yeah.
So, so what are some takeaways and strategies and tips? And then how can folks best learn more about what you have to offer?
Yeah. So I would say one, learning where you are, because if you ask for directions to get somewhere, if you say, well, how do I get here? The first thing that somebody's going to say is, well, where are you? In order to get you there. So kind of figure out where you are as first. And that would be learning your money mentality. So you can take our money mentality quiz. So I can give you the link for that.
We'll put it in
Um,
our show notes
okay.
for folks that want to listen. So this is in the show notes of our episode. You can find the link to the money mentality quiz.
hmm So it would be presidentiallifestyle.com/quiz. That's pretty easy, but go to the show notes to get it if you forget. The second thing is meditation is one step away from hypnotherapy. So if you haven't tried meditation before, or if you feel like you're adverse to it, you can't do it, I would say try getting lost in thought. And then when you get lost in thought, when you let your brain do what it's supposed to do, which is think, go ahead and let it think. And then as those thoughts become negative, just decide, I don't like that thought. Can I get another one? I don't like that thought. Can I get another one? And as you keep doing that, eventually the brain is going to be like, you know what? I'm just going to be quiet for now, and it'll be quiet for maybe a minute, and then it'll like, oh, I just thought of something, maybe you'll like this one, right? Just let your brain do that. So do that for like 10 minutes a day, 2 minutes a day, whatever you can muster up. Allow your brain to get lost in thought, because a lot of times we think we can't do meditation because, again, going back to society, it told us we needed to be completely silent for an hour, and it's just not true. We don't have to do that. The brain thinks, the heart beats, the stomach digests. Let the body do what it's supposed to do. The brain is a thinking machine. Let it think. Don't stop it from doing what it's so good at. Just ask it to give you another thought. Just like if the radio was playing a song you didn't like, you just say, can I get another song?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
that's how I want you to think about it. And we do virtual hypnotherapy as well as in office. So you're not that far away. Even if you are in, I don't know, Bali right now, you and I could still work
Can I
together.
be in Bali? I'll take that. I don't need another thought. I like that one. Just kidding. Go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
know, me too. I
So
love that thought
you
as
can do
well.
this. You can do it virtual. That's interesting.
hmm
Cool.
Yeah, we can do virtual hypnotherapy. And a lot of times, the way people get to me is because they hear me on a podcast, they see one of my videos. They may not be ready at the time. Just because today is the day I'm on the podcast doesn't mean it's the day that you're going to be ready. So, what I like to say is just say to yourself, when I'm ready, I'm going to call Kine, or I'm going to reach out to Kine. And what you do by doing that is you implant that into your brain. And the moment you feel enough pain, because that's what we need to feel in order to make change, the moment you feel enough pain, your brain will remind you, because that is how fascinating it is. Trust your brain. Just imprint that message and say, when I'm ready, I'm going to reach out to Connect. In the meantime, you can consume more podcasts that I've been on, or my podcast, or you can watch videos. Sometimes I have videos on YouTube, mostly Instagram and Facebook there too. Or if you want to join right now for a very limited time, we have our group offered for free. So you can join our free hypnotherapy group. It's not going to be free for long, though. This is kind of a special thing for what we're going through right now. So you can join that hypnotherapy group. We do it once a month. I do free hypnotherapy. You can join that group. And from there, when you're ready, I'm already going to be there for you. You'll already be in my world. Because right now I'm coming to you in your world. But if you really are serious, just come into my world. Take the quiz, give yourself some. I have meditations that I can give you for free. Jump into our group, and you can take the quiz there. But not only that, you can get a free copy of my book, The Art of Starting Over, if you jump into the free group.
That's
So
cool.
I felt like I was just like pouring into somebody. Somebody
Love
really needed to hear that, because
love
I didn't
that.
even mean to say all of that.
No, it's super generous, and you've obviously been building the presidential lifestyle and mindset for yourself, and it's exciting to see a story unfold in your life. That's exciting, very cool. I love what you're building, and again, the best way. What is the best way to find that free group?
Yes. So you can go to presidentiallifestyle.com, and right on our website, we give you three options, like the free option, the low cost option, and just a little bit more. None of them are really expensive. So it just start with the free option, jump into that group, and then you'll get the PDF of my book, The Art of Starting Over. Inside there will also be a link to the quiz. And we have two different quiz, the Life of Meaning quiz and the Money Mentality quiz.
So good. I think in the midst of the catastrophe we've seen this year and ongoing health crisis and financial crisis,
Mhm.
there's going to be a big push for folks to understand where they are in the story. I feel like too many
Yeah.
people woke up halfway through the movie and don't know what the story's all about. But you can, again, you can create a new ending. And I think, again, when you're ready, work with Kine.
Yes, and I love the way you say that. The woke up halfway through the movie, like,
It
what just
doesn't it feel
happened?
like that? Yeah, like why did they just lower interest rates again? What's going on right now? Why did the market just take half my retirement? So, again, so find out more by going to Kine's groups and learning more about how you can understand the meaning behind the money.
Mm.
Such good stuff. All right, thank you so much for being on our show today, Kine.
You're welcome. Thank you for allowing me to be here. It's just such a pleasure.
All right, I'm gonna hit stop recording.